after a pretty dormant week for the division with 3 of our 4 teams on bye. Everyone is back in action this week with a pair of teams looking to take sole possession of first place. Welcome into the NFC West Huddle, your one-stop shop for a look around the entire division. I'm Ethan McReynolds in Seattle, and as always, I'm joined by our panel of experts covering each team in the best division in football. We got Richard Sines. He has returned. He is in Phoenix. Keyshawn Ward is in San Francisco. And making his NFC West Huddle debut in Los Angeles, Mark Rogandino. Mark, welcome to the show. Welcome in.
Happy to be a part of the crowd and step in for a little bit, talk some NFC West football. As you mentioned, a little bit of a break, but it's a good time to start ramping up toward the final stretch of the season.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be getting your take on the Rams coming off their bye shortly. But first, I want to talk Niners. The lone game in the division last week, a tough loss to the Texans, saw them fall out of that 3-way tie atop the division. Keyshawn, what did you see from the Niners in that one?
Well, it started with C.J. Stroud having his way with the Niners. He threw for 318 yards in the air and had 2 touchdowns. And then the Texans offense put up 475 yards, while the Niners only had 223. And then they pretty much held Christian McCaffrey in check. He only had 24 yards rushing and 43 yards receiving. But the biggest reason why the Texans won on Sunday, they dominated time of possession. The Texans held the ball for 41 minutes, while the Niners only had the ball for 18 minutes. Now, there were a couple positive notes on Sunday for the Niners. They were able to get 2 touchdowns from their tight ends, George Kittle and Jake Tunges on National Tight End Day, and Deommodore Lenoir. He intercepted the ball before halftime, which ended an NFL record of 14 straight games of an NFL team not having interception. So those are the positive things, but overall, the Texans dominate time possession, and that's why the Niners lost on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll say the rest of the division pretty happy to see the Niners drop that one, to be quite honest. No games to recap for the rest of us. But my question, where do you want to see your team improve coming out of the bye week? Mark, I'll start with you and your Rams.
Well, I think when you look at the Rams right now, the running game has been probably a B so far. Kyren Williams has had some flashes. Blake Corum has also had some flashes. But a consistent 4 quarters of running game would be one of the things I think Sean McVay wants to address. You know you have the talent there. You're hoping you're going to get Rob Havenstein back in on the left side of the offensive line. That should help move that line of scrimmage on a regular basis. And so I think if Sean McVay can get the running game really going, we know Matthew Stafford absolutely thrives when it comes to the play-action pass. But I think it's just consistency in the running game. And when you look at the schedule, I know we'll do that later going forward, I think it sets up really well for LA if they can do exactly that.
Richard, let's go over to you now. The Cardinals have dug themselves into a bit of a hole early on. Where do they need to improve coming out of the bye at 2-5?
Well, first things first, can we just give Aaron Levine some props?
Absolutely.
I mean, that guy is absolutely amazing. You know, killing it, Jeopardy. I even wrote it in my diary. I wrote, you know, Aaron, you are the man.
Yes.
You know, he's representing us well, making us sports guys look like, you know, we got half a brain out here. That's pretty impressive. So I just want to give Aaron Levine some big time. But I don't know what's next. Is Keyshawn going to be in a bodybuilding competition or something? I see he's still wearing the medium, you know, the small medium shirt. So yeah, we're back, baby. We're back. The Cardinals are trying to get back into the win column, and if they want to do that, the one thing they need to improve on is getting stops in the fourth quarter. I mean, they've been outscored 44-6 in the fourth quarter in the last 3 games alone. They've given up 76 points in the fourth quarter all year long. For some reason, they can't get that big stop, and they can't put teams away. So that's the one thing that they need to improve on if they want to right the ship and make this a decent season. Because right now, 5 losses in a row, oh boy, man. A lot of people are not happy out here in Arizona, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, Richard, thank you so much for the shout out for one of our own, Aaron Levine. He is on Jeopardy right now, currently a 3-day champ at the moment. So tune in tonight wherever you can see Jeopardy, going for a 4-peat for Aaron Levine, our trivia king here in Seattle. But here with the Seahawks, looking to improve definitely the running game. Mark, similar to what you were talking about with the Rams, it just has not been good enough through 7 games. And it's not for a lack of trying. The Hawks are 6th in the league in rushing attempts per game at over 28.5. But on those attempts, they're averaging just 3.7 yards per carry. That's second to last, ahead of only the Niners. It's really funny looking back, reflecting on the season, looking back at the beginning of the season and what the expectations were for this offense under Clint Kubiak. A lot of questions coming in his first year. The thought was the running game would be the strength of this team and would cover up a suspect passing game led by Sam Darnold. We didn't really know what we were going to get out of Darnold. It's been completely the opposite, with JSN leading the league in receiving yards and just taking home player of the month, actually, earlier today. So even though it's been ineffective for the most part, Kubiak's commitment to the run, it has paid off in the passing game with a lot of explosive plays coming on play action, but not being able to run the ball. It has made it much harder to close games out in the fourth quarter, and it's led to the Hawks letting some teams back into games that should have been well out of hand, like the Cardinals and Texans. So they got two talented backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, all the talent in the world in that backfield. We'll see if Clint Kubiak and the rest of this coaching staff can improve in that area as the season progresses. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Every team is dealing with injuries at this time of the year. It is football after all, as we near the halfway point of the season. What is your team's biggest injury question heading into the week, and what's the latest update? Mark, you're first with the Rams.
Name I need to throw at you guys, and that would be wide receiver Puka Nacua. The ankle injury that he sustained overseas. I wasn't able to finish in that game, although a pretty easy route win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But he has been a limited participant in practice. The bye week came at a perfect time with an injury like that. The top receiver for the Rams was able to get extra time and probably some extra R&R too to try and get himself back on the field. We know that Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams have developed a great connection in limited time, a small sample size just in their first season together. But obviously it's Puka Nacua that really makes that engine rev when you talk about the passing game for the LA Rams. When he's on, other guys get open and other guys have more space to operate. So Nacua, I expect him to play this weekend against the Saints, a home game, but maybe given the game script in this one, you don't have to get him in 50% or more plays out there for the Rams offense if the score dictates that they can really lean on the running game and run away with it possibly.
Keyshawn, you're next. Hard to imagine there's a bigger injury than one to your quarterback, let alone one that just signed a big contract in the offseason. What's the latest with Brock Purdy, and are there any other injuries that you're going to be monitoring?
Well, yeah, the latest update with Brock Purdy with his toe injury on his right foot is he is still limited at practice. That's been kind of the same thing that's been going on for the past couple of weeks, and I wouldn't expect him to play this Sunday because it felt like ever since that Jacksonville Jaguars game in early September, he pretty much had a setback on that toe injury. So I don't really expect Purdy to play this Sunday, but the other injury I'm trying to keep an eye on is Ricky Pearsall. He's been out for probably the past 4 or 5 games with a knee injury. We haven't really heard much about his participation in practice so far. I think he was out yesterday, so it's going to be kind of hard to say what he's going to do on Sunday, but I do not expect Purdy to play this Sunday against the Giants.
Wow, big news there. Another missed game potentially for Brock Purdy. Mac Jones staying at the helm. I will go next with the Seahawks. The defense has been one of the best in the league so far this year, but their starting secondary, surprisingly, they've only played 4 snaps together all season. Most of that is due to injuries to Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love. Both have missed the last 3 games and a couple of games earlier in the season as well. They had practiced heading into week 7, but Mike McDonald held them out and opted to give them an extra week of rest with the bye week, with both expected to be back this week. But Mike McDonald telling reporters yesterday on Wednesday that Julian Love has suffered a setback to his hamstring injury, and he could be a candidate for injured reserve. So tough news there. Devin Witherspoon, though, did practice in full on Wednesday, and Mike McDonald should have his star cornerback on the field on Sunday Night Football against the Commanders. Richard, what about the Cardinals? How are they doing on the injury front?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm glad Keyshawn didn't talk about Christian McCaffrey being injured because he's been healthy all year. He's been fantastic for my fantasy team, the Chimichangas. They're doing great thanks to Christian McCaffrey. Now, as far as the Cardinals, it's quarterback, right? Like, who's going to start at quarterback right now? All signs are pointing to Kyler Murray. He's going to be the starter on Monday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. We all know he's from Texas. He's a Texas high school football legend. Never lost at that stadium. So he's excited to get back in action and back in his home state. But boy, I've been giving you guys in Seattle a hard time about Sam Darnold, saying he's just a guy. He's better than Geno Smith. We know that. But boy, a lot of people here in Arizona are saying Kyler Murray's not that guy. And they want Jacoby Brissett to be the starter because Jacoby Brissett in the last 2 games that he started before the bye week was absolutely fantastic. He had 279 yards passing against the Green Bay Packers, 2 touchdowns. both of them to Trey McBride. McBride hadn't had 2 scores in a game since he joined the NFL. The last time he did it was in college against the Colts the week before. He had 320, another 2 touchdowns, hit 8 different receivers. The offense was clicking, so a lot of people are saying, hey, why are we making that switch? But head coach Jonathan Gannon has said from the very beginning, if Kyler Murray's healthy, when he's healthy, he'll be the starter. Looks like he's healthy now. He'll be the starter on Monday, but a lot of people are going to be watching that position and the offense and how it functions with Kyler Murray back in the lineup and see, who needs to be the guy behind the center moving forward.
Yeah, Richard, you brought up Sam Darnold. You talked a lot of trash ahead of that Seahawks Cardinals matchup, and then poof, you were gone from the huddle for a few weeks. Welcome back. We weren't able to fully take our victory lap, so glad to have you back on the show, Richard. Happy that you mentioned that one. All right, we're gonna
and I'm
take
giving him credit. I'm giving him all the credit he deserves. He's played great.
Hey, kudos for you on that one. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, but we got a lot more back here on the NFC West Huddle. Welcome back into the NFC West Huddle. On to our next topic. Let's look ahead to Week 9. Keyshawn, your Niners are road favorites facing the New York Giants, led by rookie quarterback Jackson Dart. How do you see the Niners doing in this one?
Now, although it's going to be another 10 a.m. start for the Niners back-to-back weeks, I expect them to bounce back just because we just mentioned a rookie quarterback going against the Niners defense. Now, granted, it's not the same defense as Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, those stars on that star-studded defense in the past. But I just feel like Jackson Dart is going to kind of get a reality check. Yes, he beat the Philadelphia Eagles and had his way with the different Broncos, but I just think that the Niners are going to be a little more pissed off losing that game against the Texans, the way they lost as well, being dominated in time of possession. So I expect the Niners to give them a hard day this Sunday. But on the Niners offense, I think they're going to do really well against the Giants defense just because the Giants have the 3rd worst rushing defense. So I'm expecting Christian McCaffrey to have, a resemblance to what he did against Atlanta Falcons Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago when he had 120 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. So I expect the Niners to do pretty well on Sunday, winning 20-10 against the New York Giants.
Richard loves to hear that with McCaffrey on his chimichangas. Richard, let's go to you next. Right there, the Cardinals taking on the Cowboys on the road on Monday night. Dallas favored by 2.5 points in this one. How do you see it playing out, and how excited are you to see Christian McCaffrey against the lowly Giants rushing defense?
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad that Christian McCaffrey's playing that Giants defense. And, the 49ers got a little lucky that Cam Scatterbo, the former Sun Devil, who was having a heck of a year, probably going to be Rookie of the Year, is out. That's a big bummer here in Arizona. A lot of people were rooting for him to continue to have the success that he started with. And you saw how many people surrounded him when he got hurt, that just the impact that he made on the team. So we wish him a speedy recovery. But yes, Christian McCaffrey's playing great, and that's good for the Chimichangas once again. But for the Arizona Cardinals, it comes down to the defense again. They have to somehow slow down that Cowboys offense, because when they get clicking, they are a juggernaut. They are hard to stop. They've scored 40 points 3 times so far this season. They're averaging 30 a game. The Cardinals defense has done pretty well. They're only giving up about 21 points a game, but the offense hasn't been able to complement them. So the offense for the Arizona Cardinals has to click with Kyler Murray back after 2 weeks out, and then the bye week, so really 3 weeks. And then they have to somehow stop that Dallas offense in the 4th quarter, because for some reason, the Cardinals defense has played great for the first 3 quarters. I don't know if the defensive coordinator, Nick Rallis, is not making the proper adjustments, but for some reason, the opposing team gets hot in the 4th quarter. They've only given up or forced teams to punt twice this whole season in the 4th quarter, and that was in the first week of the season. So ever since week 1, teams have not had to punt in the 4th quarter. You got to get stops late in the game.
Wow. Yeah. 4th quarter performance, pretty indicative of how you're going to do in the NFL. Mark, the Rams are heavy home favorites against the Saints. I have to imagine you're feeling pretty confident heading into the weekend.
Talk about fantasy football so far, but let me throw in a little bit of Survivor here, because if to this point in Week 9 you're still involved in a Survivor contest, the Rams have to be at the top of your list as the team that you're going to put to win and get you on to week 10. There's a reason that they're the biggest favorite on the board coming into this weekend. I think that it sets up really well for Los Angeles. My only concern would be a little bit of rust, right? Given they haven't played an NFL game in a full 2 weeks, when you add the trip overseas to play against Jacksonville, then having the whole week off for the bye, and now coming back in. So I really could see, having seen this team many times, a little bit of a slow start there in the first quarter, and then really just starting to rev that engine and get things going, and a double digits win in the end when it's all said and done. I will say this, it's a 1-7 New Orleans Saints team, and they haven't been great when it comes to their record, but the turnover margin is what's really killed that team under Kellen Moore. And so they've had the ability to stay in some games for a limited amount of time, and then all of a sudden that turnover bug pops up, and that's really when they end up, on the losing end of things. So also another rookie quarterback getting to start in that one, and with Sean McVay having time to prepare his defense for something like that, expect them to really put the clamps on that Saints offense.
Yeah, we'll see what we get out of Tyler Shuck. It'll be the first time seeing him. That'll be interesting for sure. As for the Seahawks, they will play their second straight primetime game, taking on the Commanders in D.C. on Sunday Night Football. The Hawks have won 9 straight road games, which is a franchise record. Mike McDonald's actually only lost once on the road since he took over last year. I like the Seahawks odds in this one, especially coming off of their bye week. The Julian Love setback is going to hurt, but Ty Okada has been playing some good football in his place at safety. And getting Devin Witherspoon back is going to be a huge boost to an already elite defense. The Commanders will likely have Jaden Daniels back, it sounds like, so that's going to be a challenge to keep him contained. But this defensive line is really good. They talk about rushing as a unit and not rushing as one. I think they're going to do a good job of keeping Daniels contained. He's also not having the best sophomore season, so maybe the injuries have played into that a little bit, but I like the Seahawks to be able to keep him contained on Sunday night. And then the Commanders' defense, not very strong on paper, other than their pass rush being top 10 in stacks. Their bottom half, in the 20s in rush defense and in pass defense. So as long as that offensive line remains solid in pass protection for Sam Darnold, as they have so far this entire season, I'm pretty confident the Seahawks will take home their 10th straight road win and stay in at least a tie for the top of the NFC West. All right, we're going to step aside. We'll be right back with more NFC West Huddle. Welcome back. All right, next topic. With 3 of our 4 teams on bye last week, I thought it'd be a good time to reevaluate some of our preseason predictions. Looking ahead at the rest of your team's schedule, how many wins will your team finish with? Richard, I'll go to you first with the Cardinals.
It's amazing how much a couple of weeks make, right? Because, boy, when the Cardinals started out 2-0, they were looking really good. Now, some people are saying 5-6 wins. Last year they had 8. You were thinking this is the 3rd year for this coaching regime. They're going to take that next hump. But, boy, you look at the schedule. They've got the Rams twice. They got San Francisco. They got Seattle. They got Tampa. I don't know if they can get 4 or 5 more wins, the rest of the way here. And especially with the injuries that they've had piling up, they are going to get some help on the defensive line with Walter Nolan, their top pick, getting back. But, boy, unless Kyler Murray really turns it on in the second half of this season, I don't see them getting more than 3 or 4 wins.
Wow. Yeah, prove it time for Kyler Murray over there in Arizona. Mark, what about you and the Rams? You mentioned the schedule sort of setting up well for improving this run game. How many wins are you seeing for the Rams?
5-2 right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if this gets to be an 11 or 12 win team. And I say that because if you look over the next 6 games, taking you all the way to week 15 when they'll host the Lions at SoFi Stadium, you have a lot of divisional games, but the one game that I would look at that might be scary would be against the 49ers up there in Northern California. But that's also a payback game for LA from week 5 when they lost at home at SoFi Stadium against San Francisco. So, and now with some of the injuries that the 49ers have picked up as well, especially, losing their captain on the defensive side of the ball and Fred Warner. I think that this sets up for the Rams to kind of dip their toe in the pool with a lesser opponent in the Saints this week and then really get ramped up and going. I could see them rattling up 5-6 wins in a row over the next month and a half.
Yeah, I will go next with the Seahawks. We talked about it preseason. The Hawks don't have the hardest schedule in the world, and that's remained mostly true other than a matchup with the Colts at home that it's going to be a lot tougher than anyone thought. before the season. For me, I have a split with the Rams, and I got losses to the Niners and Colts. I see them beating the Commanders, Cardinals, Titans, Vikings, Falcons, and Panthers, plus one of the two against the Rams. The Seahawks have not struggled against teams that they are better than. Their only losses are to the Buccaneers, who are proving to be one of the better teams in the NFC, and the San Francisco 49ers, a quality opponent as well. Those wins, that's going to put them at 12-5, right in the hunt for the division with the Rams at 11 or 12 wins, Mark, that you mentioned. I also wouldn't be surprised if they pulled an upset in one of those three losses that I listed. I'm really intrigued to see specifically how the Hawks match up with the Rams when they play for the first time in just over 2 weeks in LA. I think that's going to serve as a pretty big litmus test for this team in seeing if the Super Bowl talk is legit or maybe a little premature for this regime. Keyshawn, what about you? How many wins do you see the Niners finishing with?
You know, Ethan, I got to be honest, man. The faithful are not going to hear this, but, you know, I came into the season very optimistic, believing the Niners will have at least 10 or 11 wins because their schedule was so easy. But, man, I feel like after each game the season goes on, I feel like the Niners lose 2 or 3 players. So I think it's going to get worse. And I'll be honest, man, I don't really think Purdy is going to be playing a lot of games this season. I have a feeling that his toe injury was probably similar to what Joe Burrow had when Burrow had surgery on it, was out for 3 months. And Purdy, the fact that he gets surgery, he's probably just pushing it, but it's probably not getting the proper care that it needs. It needs to probably get surgically done. And, you know, a big factor on the Niners defense is not only they don't have their stars, they don't have a pass rush. I mean, they just picked up Keion White from the New England Patriots and Clelin Ferrell, a former first-round pick, but I don't know if those guys are the answer. I got to see it to believe it. And the schedule is easy going down the road, but they still got to face the Rams again. Like, you know, you guys mentioned earlier the Rams want some payback for that game. And although the Browns are a really crappy team this year, they have a really great defense. I don't know if the Niners can score on them. And I'm just not very confident about the Niners going forward this season. So maybe 8 to 9 wins, but I'll be shocked to get 10 wins or more.
Yeah, definitely. Richard, I want you to close this out. We have just under a minute here. In 30 seconds or less, who do you think wins the division?
Boy, I think Seattle wins the division because of one
Sam
reason.
Darnold is that guy.
Defense! I mean, the defense has been absolutely amazing. I say Seattle is 1A, but 1B are the Rams, just because their schedule is a little bit easier. But as Keyshawn just mentioned, that doesn't always mean you're going to get those wins, because the season can change in a matter of weeks. But I think when you have defense the way Seattle has, and the way Sam Darnold's been playing, I think you guys got a good recipe for success there. And I'm just tired of watching the LA markets win everything. They're already going to win, the World Series. Maybe Toronto will pull out 2 at home, but it's just like, let somebody else, let another market win for a change.
Absolutely. Sam Darnold is that guy. I think that's the takeaway. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the NFC West Huddle. We'll see you next week.